Sure? Okay, let's get started. All right, so first of all, tell you guys a little bit about myself, to set some context for what we're gonna be talking about today. My name is Mecca Okereke, and I'm a senior manager on the App Store Developer Services team. And what our team does is we build solutions for you, mobile developers, to help you monetize your applications, to reduce the amount of time it takes you to build your applications and to really be successful both on Amazon hardware and on third-party Android hardware. So, phones made by, HTC and, Samsung and pretty much everybody else. So today what we're going to be talking about is in-app purchasing, which we think is a really good way to help you monetize your applications. It's a really great system because it allows your customers the opportunity to try things out before they buy. It kind of eliminates buyer's remorse, and it really feeds into what we call the virtuous cycle, which is customers get engaged with your applications. They really like them. You establish a relationship before you ask for money, and it's really great. And so what we're also going to do is we're going to see exactly how simple it is to implement in-app purchasing. So for those of you that aren't software engineers, don't worry. We're not going to get too deep into the code. It should be enough that you can all sort of follow along. And for those of you that do write code, you should see exactly how simple it is to implement. And so one of the things that we really stress is, as a developer, there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to have to deal with. You have to deal with it. Things like being out of connectivity with the network, things like, well, is the payment instrument valid? These are all things that have to be considered. We just don't want you guys to have to consider it. We don't want you to expend that mental energy, which could be better spent making sure that you have a better experience for your users. So what is in-app purchasing? Well, IAP for short. Great way to monetize your apps, gives your customers a chance to try before they buy, simple to implement. And what can you actually do with it? Well, you can sell in-game items or in-app items, right? Like digital currency or character upgrades. You can build freemium applications. So you can have an application that's free to download, and then the customer can make a decision to purchase, to upgrade to kind of a premium edition. You can offer subscriptions. So you can have the customer be periodically rebuild for a functionality within your application. This is awesome because it turns a one-time purchase event into a revenue stream that you can use to support your business. You can also sell permanent upgrades. So the customer can pay for something once, and then from that point on, the app is better. It offers more functionality for them. So just a couple of examples to take a look at. Wired magazine, stunning digital content. A lot of it is interactive. It's not just taking the physical pages from the printed edition and slapping them on a tablet. There's much more deeper engagement for the users to consume content via Wired magazine. This is done by Condé Nast. And the IP feature that they use is subscription content. So you subscribe to the Wired application, you're periodically rebuild as a customer. You don't have to do anything, and you get all of the latest content as it becomes available. You can also do amazingly addictive casual games. One of my favorites, Cut the Rope. I like it a little more than it likes me. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm working on it. This is by Zepto Labs. They offer a premium upgrade. So if you Omnom, it's a little character here. You complete all the levels, which I will get there. You can then buy more levels, and you get to play some more. And they offer expansion packs. You can also do intense arcade games. So IAP isn't just for casual games. It's not just for Farmville type games. Glue has a game that's quite intense. Definitely not for kids. Blood and Glory. You're a gladiator, and you may want to deck yourself out with a better helmet, little ostrich plumes, and you can do that by buying digital currency from within the game. Again, these are AAA titles. They're high concept games, and they leverage IAP as well. Excuse me. So we're going to take a look at some sample code. Button clicker. If you go to developer.amazon.com/SDK right now, you can download the sample code. You don't have to create an account. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can just click the link and download it if you want to play along at home. It's an example, it's a test bed that we provide for you to show you the sample code and how IAP actually works. One thing that I do want to stress, you might read some articles about how much money some developers are making with IAP. We have one developer that's doing over $700,000 a month, they reported, on Amazon in-app purchasing. And so you may be tempted to think that IAP is some kind of magic bullet. You slap it on your app and then hence profit. It really doesn't work that way. First of all, you have to really design an experience that your customers will love. Design an experience that will delight your customers. So Aaron Rubinson gave a talk yesterday. He's floating around the conference, sitting right over there. I encourage you to speak to them. We shared some data yesterday on some best practices and what we're seeing from developers that are really successful monetizing their apps on the Kindle Fire and using in-app purchasing in terms of how you can really maximize your revenue as a developer, which is awesome. This virtuous cycle I was talking about actually is also maximizing enjoyment for your customers, right? So you treat the customers well and you give them a great experience and you implement IAP correctly, and then hence profit. Then the gnomes are happy. Please, please, please don't build button clicker. Don't do it. Don't do it. But anyway, that being said, let's take a look at what button clicker actually is. It is an app which allows you to click a big red button. Right? So you have 3 clicks left, you click it, now you've got 2 clicks, you click it one more time, you have 1 click left, and then you're out of clicks, and you must purchase new clicks. If you get tired of clicking the big red button, you can freemium upgrade, and you can click the big blue button. And then there's the purple, and then there's the green. So it's just designed so that for you as developers to take a look at how in-app purchasing is implemented and how you would actually go about doing it. Again, you can download the sample code for button clicker by going to developer.amazon.com/sdk.html. Okay? So let's take a look at what we would actually like to do. Well, we want to be able to sell clicks in our app. We want to be able to upgrade our button colors, and we want to be able to subscribe to the app, just so that we can test out what subscriptions look like. Okay? So to understand how IAP is implemented, it's important to understand the 3 central components. One is the Amazon App Store in-app SDK itself. One is the purchasing manager, and the final is the purchasing observer. So let's talk about those different options and see what they are. The Amazon App Store in-app SDK, that's the component that sits within the Amazon App Store that really manages and takes care of all the difficult pieces of in-app purchasing, takes care of making sure that the customer has a valid payment instrument, takes care of making sure that this customer is eligible to purchase this content in this area, making sure that there's a valid network connection, making sure that we handle all the different edge cases and adverse conditions, the code to conform to all the myriad different versions of Android that are available. All of that logic is contained within the Amazon App Store in-app SDK. So as a developer, the 2 components that you should concern yourself with are the purchasing manager and the purchasing observer. Right? So let's talk about those 2 items and see what they are. So the purchasing manager is what you use to send messages to the in-app purchasing SDK. So anytime you want to send a message to the in-app purchasing SDK, you do it through the purchasing manager. Right? So if you want to initiate a purchase, the user has indicated their intent to buy some more clicks, you would do that by sending a message through the purchasing manager. Okay? Now the purchasing observer is how you receive messages from the in-app purchasing SDK. So a customer's indicated they want to make a purchase, you send it through the purchasing manager. The response, whether that was successful or not successful, or customer decided not to purchase, the response is going to come back to you as a developer through the purchasing observer. Okay? So that's what the different components are. The purchasing manager to send purchase requests, and the purchasing observer to receive purchasing requests. And it's also important to understand what are the different types of in-app purchase items that you can offer for sale through Amazon. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at button clicker, and we're going to map our items that we want to purchase and figure out which one of these types is most appropriate for what we're trying to do. So the first type is consumable content. The next type is entitlement content. And the final type is subscription content. So we're going to dig in and explore each one of these different types and see what they really are and what they really mean. So let's start with consumable content. Consumable content is items that can be used up by the customer. For example, a bag of gold coins or a box of arrows. If you buy 5 arrows and you shoot one of them, you only have 4 arrows left. So consumable items can be used up by the customer. Consumable items are not shared across devices. So if I happen to have 10 devices and I buy 5 poker chips on one, I don't get poker chips. I don't magically multiply the number of consumables that I've purchased. So consumable, the customer is not periodically rebilled. So if I buy 5 poker chips, right, I'm not going to be automatically rebilled for another 5 poker chips at some point in the future. So that's not really what consumables are designed for. So this would be ideal for our clicks. Like if in Button Clicker, if we wanted to sell a pack of 5 clicks and we wanted those to be used up, and when the user has 0 clicks, they have to purchase some more, we would probably choose a consumable item type to model that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about entitlement content. So entitlements are things that cannot be used up by the customer. If I'm entitled to something, then I'm entitled. I have it. There's no notion of quantity with an entitlement. Now, these items are shared across devices. So if I'm playing Cut the Rope and I buy the expansion pack on my Kindle Fire, and then I go to continue playing on my Android phone, I would still like to be entitled to the expansion pack across both of those devices. Again, the customer is not periodically rebilled for entitlement content. If I buy the expansion pack, I don't want to be charged again for the expansion pack. I already have it. So this would be ideal for our button color upgrades feature. And finally, we'll talk about subscription content. Subscription content, again, can't be used up. There's not a notion of quantity. There's a notion of temporal relevance, right? So for today, am I subscribed to Wired Magazine? It's very binary. It's yes or no. Yes, I am subscribed. Excuse me. These items are shared across devices. So if I have 2 Kindle Fires and I subscribe to Wired on one, I would expect to be able to read Wired on another. And the customer is periodically rebilled with subscription content. So as a developer, if someone subscribes to your app or to your game, the customer might sign up for a monthly subscription. At the end of every month, that customer is going to be rebilled. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to say, yes, I still like playing, World of Warcraft. They don't have to do that. And as a developer, you don't have to do anything extra to allow that customer to continually be rebilled. So this would be ideal for our gain access to the app feature. I still haven't figured out which one of the thousands of conference attendees got me sick. The hunt continues. But yeah, so let's talk about setting up our SKUs. Well, first of all, what is a SKU? A SKU is a stock keeping unit. It's just an identifier that you use as a developer to define each one of the products that you want to sell in your game. Essentially, it's just a string, right? It's defined by you, the developer, and you can really put this anywhere you want. You can put it in your code, or you can just put it in a list, a JSON file. For those of you that are familiar with Android, I'm not sure if any of you downloaded the button clicker sample code that we put the link up for. But what we did is we just, in the strings.xml file, we have this line that you can see that's highlighted in orange here that just identifies a SKU for buying 10 clicks. So we're going to call this our consumable SKU, com.amazon.buttonclicker.10_clicks. It's just a string so that we know which one of the items we're talking about as we do the purchase. Okay? So in order to use in-app purchasing, we need to set up our app to be able to speak to Amazon. Or to be able to speak to the Amazon in-app purchasing SDK. Again, for those of you that are familiar with Android, what you will notice here is the Android manifest. There's literally some boilerplate text here that we provide. You can just copy and paste that into your Android manifest, and it will just work. If you want to explore this and see what this actually is saying, It's saying that Android as a system uses broadcast intents to communicate between applications, and your application will ignore all of these broadcasts that it doesn't care about. And what we're saying here is we're saying if there is a broadcast from the Amazon in-app purchasing SDK and it's pointing at me, then I do care about this message. I would like that message to be routed to my application. So that's setting up your application to be able to work with the in-app purchasing SDK. So let's actually go through and look at all of the steps that are required by you as a developer to enable purchasing a click within your application. How much code is it, and what do you actually have to do? Like, what do you actually have to concern yourself with? So we're gonna walk through these steps here. The first of which is you need to create a purchasing observer, right? So that's what's going to enable you to receive messages from the in-app purchasing SDK. You need to register your purchasing observer with the purchasing manager. So when you send a message to the in-app purchasing SDK, that we know how to route it back to you. Okay? You need to make sure IAP is available on the device that you're using. And then you need to actually send the purchase request. So when the user clicks the "I would like to buy a click" button, you need to actually send the purchase request saying the user has decided they want to buy some clicks. And then through everything else that we've set up, that message is going to come back to you as a developer. You then need to handle that response. Okay, I said buy a click. It went through. The message came back. Now I need to fulfill my promise. The customer has been charged. I've received my message. Everything looks good. And then we need to actually do something with it. So let's kind of step through and see what this looks like. Let's talk about creating a purchasing observer. Again, this is just a plain Java class. Private class button clicker observer. We're going to extend the base purchasing observer. This is a class that Amazon provides for you. We're going to define our constructor, public button clicker observer, and we're actually going to pass in the activity, right? So we have context. Final button clicker activity, button clicker activity. We're going to call the super, right? So that we get all of that baked in functionality. We're going to set our base activity to the activity that was passed in. And that's it. That's it. That's all the code. That is a purchasing observer. Okay? So I'm just going to do some code folding just so that we can kind of save some space on the screen so that you can see how we can actually do something interesting with this now. So there's a method that we can override on SDK available, and it gets a Boolean, is sandbox mode. And we can talk at the end a little bit about what sandbox mode is. Let me go back there. And so what we're doing here is we're literally just logging right now. Like if the SDK is available, we're just going to log to the console, the SDK is available. Just so that for developers, as we're building this and debugging, we can kind of see what's going on. Okay? I'm just going to fold that down as well, just so that we can kind of see a little bit more what's going on. Now, this is the interesting one. On purchase response. This is the method on your purchasing observer that Amazon is going to call when the purchase response is completed. So the customer said, I'd like to buy a click, right? All kinds of things can happen, right? The user might be out of network. The user might decide they don't want to buy that. The user might decide, yes, I do want to buy it. And they try to buy it, and their payment goes through successfully, and everything worked, and then we get called, right? This is the method that's going to be called. It's completely asynchronous, right? So you don't have to worry about blocking the UI thread, right? So, let's take a look at what we're going to do here. For now, we're just going to log out. We're just going to say purchase response.getPurchase status, right? And we're just going to log whatever that is. If it was success, if it was failed, if it was denied, we're just going to log out what that was. Okay? Bless you. Someone got you too, I see. So we've now created a purchasing observer. So the next thing we need to do is we need to register our purchasing observer with our purchasing manager. So when we send that purchase request, that Amazon knows where to route it to. How do we connect those two things? How many lines of code is that? How difficult is this? Well, let's take a look. This thing likes to skip a little fast. So we'll take a look in our activity, button clicker activity. For those of you that are familiar with Android development, you'll be familiar with creating an activity. There's a lifecycle method on start that will get called whenever your activity is started, right? Button clicker observer equals new button clicker observer. We're just making a new button clicker observer. Purchasing manager dot register observer button clicker observer. That's it. That's it. That's how you connect those two pieces. So for those of us keeping count, I think we're probably at about 24 lines of code or something around there. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure IAP is available, and let's just pretend it always is available. Now it's not always available. So really, what we do in this case is if the user tries to make a purchase and in-app purchasing is not available, we'll present, which basically means that the Amazon App Store is not installed. We will present a dialog box and ask the user if they would like to install the Amazon App Store. So in cases where it's not installed, we give the user an opportunity to correct that. But let's talk about where it is installed. It's installed on every Kindle Fire device that's available. It's also installed on every one of the devices that Amazon has a preload agreement with. So for example, on a lot of Verizon phones, the App Store is already available, right? So the in-app purchasing SDK is available in a lot of places that your customers are going to be making their purchases. So, and you can come and talk to us afterwards. There are a number of techniques and a number of different options that are available to you. If you do want to have your application behave in a different way if the Amazon in-app purchasing is not available. But one of the things that we do encourage our developers to do is to provide one code base, just because it's easier for developers to not have to maintain, not deal with the cyclomatic complexity of branching in a bunch of different dimensions. Okay, so we're now at a point where our application is set up for in-app purchasing. We have a purchasing observer, and we've registered it with the purchasing manager. Our application is set up to receive broadcast events from the Amazon App Store. So all that's left now is for us to send, actually when the user clicks the button to send a purchase request, we just need to know how to do that, and we need to know how to handle the response that comes back. So how do we send a purchase request? Well, so Android has a very standard MVC framework for handling UI events. So you would have a view, and if the user performs some kind of interaction on that view, like a click or a long press or something, you could respond to callbacks on that. You could set up your callback. So let's say this is our callback on buy more clicks. Whenever our buy more clicks button is pressed, this is the code that gets called. And it gets passed in the view, which in our case would be a button. This is the button that would actually respond to that. Sorry, this thing is jumping on me again. Okay, so what we're actually going to do is we're going to tell our purchasing manager dot initiate purchase my SKU. Right? My SKU is just a string. That's the string that we defined earlier. We're saying, in our case, we would say purchasing manager dot initiate purchase com.amazon button clicker purchase one click. Right? That's it. That's it. One line of code. That's how we send a purchase request to the in-app purchase API. So now that's gone off. Notice what we didn't check there. We didn't check network connectivity. We didn't have to jump around from foreground thread to background thread. Wherever you call that from, either from the foreground or the background, we'll handle it and take care of that for you. We didn't have to check what version of Android, right? We didn't have to check if we were on WAN or 4G. We didn't have to check the orientation. We didn't have to check any of that stuff. All of that is all taken care of for you by the in-app purchasing SDK. So now handling the response. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is our purchasing observer that we defined before that, while fully valid, didn't really do anything interesting. It just existed, right? So when we got our purchase response back, all we did was we just logged out what the status of that was. So let's kind of expand that out. We're going to unfold that and take a look. I'm just going to add in this little line of code here. If purchase response dot get purchase request status equals purchase response dot successful, right? So if that request to purchase that I sent, that thing came back, if it was successful, then this dot set num clicks, this dot get num clicks, +1. The user just bought a click, right? That's it. So the key takeaways, Amazon IP, simple to use. It is a great way to monetize for the reasons we talked about. It really feeds into that virtuous cycle of eliminating buyer's remorse. It rewards the apps that engage customers the most, right? And you can download the SDK, the tools, and the resources today. You don't need to create an account. You don't need to do anything extra. You can just get the SDK and start playing around with it. Now, our current record for a developer saying, I've never heard of Amazon IAP, let's take a look and see what this looks like, to having an app submitted to us that was approved for sale on our store is about 18 hours. And that included overnight because the developer got it in the evening, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, implemented this, and got it submitted for us. I'm really interested to see if anyone can beat that record. Actually, right after this, we are having a coding challenge that involves implementing what we just went over. So if you go down to the exhibit floor and go to the corner, you can participate in the coding challenge to see if it really is this simple. So that's pretty much it. I wish I could say it was more complicated than that, but it's really not. So I guess I can open it up now for questions for anyone who has any questions on how this works. That's a good question. Actually, if we could take that one, if we speak with Mr. Rubinson afterwards, that's a very interesting question. For right now, the in-app purchasing API is designed to target end customers, but that's a very frequent feature request that we get to target enterprise customers. Yeah. Yeah, that's another great question. So we have an optional feature that we call RVS, Receipt Verification Service. When you get your purchase response back, we give you a token that you can pass up to your server. Now, what you can do with that token is you can call a web service that we provide and say, hey, is this token actually valid? Should I vend this content to this user? And Condé Nast actually uses this feature in all of their subscription magazines, and in addition to Wired, Glamour, and Vanity Fair, they have a lot of content that people really are excited about, which we like. We just want to make sure that they've purchased that. So you can find documentation on RVS and how that works, or you can come down to the booth afterwards, and we can show you exactly how that works. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.